Hello there, welcome to episode 87 of Nevermind the Bullens. It's your bite-sized Everton podcast and vodcast. Obviously, there is video, and you will be able to see Ted the Emotional Support Cast. He is here again, off the back of another Everton defeat. I'm Mike Peters, by the way. Hope you're all right. Now, obviously, we've got to talk about the Southampton game, but it's a bit slightly difficult for me because I didn't see it. So all I have to go on is the first half of the commentary that I listened to via BBC Radio Merseyside and BBC Radio Solent. So Dave Merrington and Adam Blackmore, whose delightful comments about Richarlison constantly going down just never fail to amuse Evertonians. I mean, there's the eye roll emoji probably would have been worn out because it gets it from every single commentator all the time. And I tell you what, there are far worse culprits in the Premier League of rolling around like a absolute mad than Richarlison, and he has got better at it. I know he's had an issue with it before, but he has got better at it. I think Bruno Fernandes has to take some beating in that game between Leeds and Manchester United on Sunday, which is a cracking game of football, actually. A great to see an old-fashioned game played in rain and water coming up and proper sliding tackles, all good fun, that. And from our point of view, the only result that really went our way this weekend, because all the other results of teams in and around us where we are right now did not go for us at all. With Newcastle getting a point at West Ham, obviously Burnley getting that really good win away at Brighton. Obviously Norwich did lose at Anfield, but Watford winning at Villa is a bit of a blow. It's still a little bit of a cushion, but it's just not what we want, and we need to start trying to climb the table. However, with performances like we put in on Saturday, that's quite difficult. As I said, from what I heard of the first half, we started the game really brightly. We had, we started with a lot of energy. We started on the front foot really positive, which is great. And then I didn't see the second half or hear the second half. All I saw is that we completely, other than watching it on, a goal service on BBC Score, we just wilted and conceded, a couple of goals. I mean, again, it's peak Everton, really, to allow Shane Long, who'd not scored in the Premier League for 2 years, to come in and get a goal. That is just absolutely typical of us. But obviously, it's starting to show obviously we know where the fault lines are in this team. The defending for both goals was suspect. Andre Gomez losing the ball in midfield, but he had to be brought on because Allen got himself booked early on and was running the risk of getting sent off, and we can ill afford to be without him for any period of time because we are really struggling midfield. Well, certainly in terms of midfielders with any sort of steel about them. We've only got 2 or 3. Tom Davies apparently going to be out now for the rest of the season. That is a blow. It's a big blow because he probably would have been really useful to have him available, particularly for away games where we've really got to scrap and battle to try and get some points, because our away form is absolutely appalling. We've got, I read EFC Stato posted it saying that we had 1 win and 3 draws, and that's given us 5 points, which is the least of any team in the Premier League this season away from home. Now, 1 win and 3 draws would say 6 points, but whichever way you cut it, whether there's a typo in that, would say that's pretty lousy. And you're thinking, well, I think I said this off the back of the Leeds game. You think, well, where are we getting, let's say, 18 points, which we need? So that's 6 wins to get us out of that. And you're thinking, well, hang on, have we got enough home games, enough winnable home games to enable us to do that? Next week we start with Manchester City, and off the back of that defeat against Tottenham, they'll be smarting. But on the plus side, it does show that they are beatable, and who knows with the atmosphere, if it can be replicated from the Leeds game to the Man City game, who knows what we can achieve next Saturday tea time. Everybody will have had a couple of jars, I would imagine, before the game to get themselves going, and so who knows. But the performance level, and Frank Lampard acknowledged this, and I think that's a good, a positive thing. I think that he said it's just not good enough and it needs to be better, and that is the type of rhetoric that will endear him to Evertonians. Roberto Martinez fell foul of the constant, sort of everything, intensity was this and diddly-dee, and everybody just went, that's twaddle, mate. We're watching the football. Don't kid us. Be honest with us. David Moyes got a longer line of credit because he was honest with us. And if Frank Lampard adopts that same approach in terms of being honest with the supporters, being positive but being honest at the same time when things are not good and performances at levels have not been good enough, then that will do for us. We'll be happy with that, and that will help him, obviously, in the medium and long term as well, because obviously we're in a very sticky situation. We know that at this point. Back to the midfield. obviously, it's now mentioned that, a lack of numbers, and you're thinking, right, Alan had to go off, and Andre Gomez come on, and Andre Gomez and Donny van der Beek as a midfield too is not going to scare anybody. Wouldn't scare a team of under nines, because there's no real fight or tenacity in that midfield. Two very good footballers, but one that's not going to provide you with much defensive cover. One of the players that has gone out, or is going out, whether it's been confirmed in the last few hours as I come to record this, Jean-Philippe Gbamin going off to CSKA in Moscow on loan. Now, on the one hand, you think, well, actually, that's a midfielder, an energetic, athletic midfielder that's going out. Well, actually, we could do with him. However, you have to say bigger picture and say, well, hang on a minute. Abdoulaye Doucouré might well be back, if not for the City game, within a week or so, maybe for the game against Boreham Wood. Then, Gbamin's had no games. I think 6 appearances or whatever it is in 3.5 years, or we're getting towards that now, aren't we? 3 years. 3 of them coming this season. He hasn't played since before Christmas when he came on against Chelsea, when we had no players available, so he was sort of forced to be brought on in a manner of speaking. So that leaves us very short. But you're thinking, if he's going to have any chance of having a career at Everton, then this is obviously what needs to happen. He needs to go away, get a run of games, get back to some semblance of match fitness, and going out at this point, with the Russian season, whether it be interrupted by war or not, who the hell knows at this point, but going out and getting hopefully a run of games through the Russian season, and potentially coming back refreshed in time for the start of next season, if he has a part to play, then that's probably a good thing. Or if we can just cut our losses and get some money for him, that hopefully will be a positive as well. But in the short term, the immediate term, obviously it does leave us with a problem in terms of how do we solve that problem. In terms of adding some steel into the midfield and making ourselves difficult to break down, particularly in away games. Abdoulaye Doucouré, his return can't come soon enough, and that will help massively. But if he does get injured again, we're in trouble again. So where else do we look? Tyler Onyango, unproven, came on against Aston Villa, didn't really do anything. Obviously, he'll get more games. He needs to be given opportunities. But what do we do? Mason Holgate into midfield? Don't know. It's an option. He's done it before. And that seems to be the big issue. And making sure that we continue those energy levels and try and just grind out results away from home and get those points. I mean, if we can just get 4 or 5 points from away fixtures between now and the end of the season, a win and a couple of draws, that could make an absolutely massive difference to where we end up finishing. Huge difference, because I do think Burnley will have a strong run. They've had a lot of games they've not conceded many goals. It's really frightening to think they've only conceded 29 goals actually all season. They just haven't scored enough. And if Weghorst, who looks impressive from what I've seen of him so far, now he's got 1, he'll be off and running. You're thinking, well, they might well get goals, and he might be the man that carries them through and gets them out of the situation that they're in. So that ends up leaving Watford, Norwich, Newcastle and Leeds as well, and then us. So it's potentially it's 3 from 5 really, isn't it? Let's be honest. I don't think anybody else is going to get quite drawn into that mess, and we need to try and make sure that we're as far out of it as we possibly can be. But the only way we're going to do that is by getting results, and obviously that has to start on Saturday at home to Manchester City. I mentioned in the last episode that obviously I think the important thing with the Man City game is about the performance level. Not necessarily the result is vital, because if City come and win, then they've just lost 1 out of the last 15, 16 matches, wherever it is now. They absolutely thumped Sporting Lisbon in the Champions League, destroyed them. And you're thinking, right, well, actually, what we need to come out is with some credit and be applauded off by the fans at the end. If we can somehow get a result, a point, or heaven forbid 3, then brilliant. But if we can get at least a creditable performance, and say we gave everything we had and we were just beaten by a better team on the day, Evertonians will accept that. And that is absolutely crucial. And reading an article on The Athletic this past week about the atmosphere at Goodison, the change of it, and how that was sort of facilitated, and the fan groups that sort of got behind that. There was a statement in there that I'd never thought about, obviously our impending departure to Bramley Moor in this way. And it said, actually, we've only got about 40-odd games left at Goodison. And that is quite a scary thing. You're thinking, blimey, in those terms, you're thinking, that's not many. 40-odd games left at, where we've been for 130 years. That is... In those starker terms, you think, oh, yes, it's 2.5 years away. But to think 40, And we need to try and win as many of those matches as we possibly can. And certainly this season, make Goodison the fortress that traditionally, up until the last couple of years, particularly last season, which obviously was affected by COVID, and it traditionally has been. And we need to get back to that rapidly and start picking up points starting on Saturday, fingers crossed, against Man City. If you want to get in touch, you can do at NMTVPod on Twitter. NMTVPod@gmail.com is the email. Until the next time, this has been a top content production. Come on, you Blues.